In a quarry in eastern Lebanon, half buried in limestone bedrock, lies a stone that was never finished. It is roughly the size of a 9-story building laid on its side, and someone, at some point in the ancient world, decided it was too big to move. That decision is the only reason it still exists. Everything else like it, every other stone this size the ancient world dared to finish cutting, was hauled 800 meters away and lifted onto a wall that today still holds 3 single blocks of stone weighing roughly 1,000 tons each, fitted together so precisely that for 2,000 years no one has been able to slide a knife blade into the seam between them. Modern construction cranes, with modern steel and modern hydraulics, cannot lift these stones. Nobody has ever fully explained how the people who built this did. This is Baalbek in the Bekaa Valley, and it may be the single greatest unsolved engineering mystery still standing in plain sight. This is the undertold, and some mysteries refuse to die. If this is your first time here, subscribe. We dig up buried history every week. Baalbek sits in the Bekaa Valley of modern Lebanon, roughly 70 kilometers northeast of Beirut. And for most of its recorded history, it was known by a different name entirely, Heliopolis, the City of the Sun. Under Roman rule, beginning in the 1st century AD, the emperors of Rome poured extraordinary resources into building one of the largest religious sanctuaries anywhere in their empire here. A temple complex dedicated to Jupiter, Venus, and Bacchus, constructed over more than 2 centuries. The Temple of Jupiter alone was designed to be the largest religious building the Romans ever attempted, larger than anything in Rome itself. 54 columns once ringed it, each one nearly 20 meters tall. 6 still stand today, and they are, even now, some of the tallest Roman columns left on Earth. But the temple itself is not the mystery. The mystery is sitting directly underneath it. Beneath the Temple of Jupiter, built directly into the western retaining wall of the platform the temple stands on, are 3 stone blocks that architects and engineers still refer to, almost reverently, as the Trilithon. Each block is roughly 19 meters long, about the length of a 6-story building lying flat, 4 meters high, and nearly 4 meters thick. Each one weighs between 800 and 1,000 metric tons. That is roughly the weight of 6 fully loaded Boeing 747s, carved from a single unbroken piece of limestone, and then somehow lifted more than 7 meters into the air to sit perfectly level in a wall. The 3 blocks are fitted so tightly against one another that after 2,000 years of earthquakes, wars, and weather, you still cannot fit a blade between the seams. No mortar was needed. No mortar would have helped. To understand how strange this is, it helps to compare it to what we can do today. A typical modern tower crane, the kind used on skyscraper construction sites around the world, lifts somewhere between 10 and 20 tons. Even the largest mobile cranes in general industrial use top out well under 1,000 tons. There do exist a small number of specialized heavy lift cranes built for placing entire bridge sections or offshore oil rig modules that can exceed this weight. But those machines did not exist in any form for most of human history, and lifting a single 1,000-ton block of solid stone precisely into a wall 7 meters up, using only technology confirmed to exist in the ancient world, remains something modern engineers still study and argue about today. This is not a case of an ancient mystery that modern science quietly solved decades ago. It is a live, ongoing engineering question. The obvious first question is where these stones came from, and that part, at least, is answered. The quarry sits about 800 meters from the temple platform, and this detail matters. The quarry floor sits slightly higher in elevation than the platform itself. That means the ancient builders never had to lift these blocks vertically to move them horizontally. Gravity, sleds, and rollers could carry a stone downhill toward the temple site without technically raising it an inch. It is one piece of the puzzle that actually makes sense. The horizontal transport of an 800-ton block, while still an immense undertaking, is at least mechanically explainable, with sleds, wooden rollers, and enough manpower. The part nobody can fully explain is what happened next. How do you take a horizontal object weighing as much as 6 loaded jumbo jets and lift it 7 meters straight up onto a wall? And the quarry itself holds the detail that turns this from an impressive feat into a genuine mystery. Still sitting there today, never removed, never even fully separated from the bedrock beneath it, is a stone the locals call Hajar al-Hibla, the stone of the pregnant woman. It is estimated to weigh between 1,000 and 1,200 metric tons, larger than any of the 3 Trilithon blocks already in the wall. In 2014, a German-Lebanese archaeological survey found an even bigger block nearby, buried under centuries of soil, weighing an estimated 1,650 tons. The largest cut stone ever documented from the ancient world, anywhere on Earth. Whoever quarried these blocks was not struggling at the very edge of their capability with the 3 stones already in the wall. They were actively attempting to go bigger. And then, at some point, they stopped and simply walked away, leaving giants half-carved in the rock for 2,000 years. The mainstream engineering explanation, and the one most archaeologists accept as the working theory, involves an enormous patient application of manpower. Experimental archaeology studies have modeled how a block in the 500 to 600 ton range could theoretically be moved using wooden rollers, earthen ramps, and rope and capstan systems, with estimates ranging from a few hundred workers up to several thousand, depending on the specific method modeled. Some estimates for lifting a stone this size onto the platform itself run as high as 40,000 workers pulling in coordinated unison. It is, on paper, physically possible with a large enough labor force, extraordinary planning, and total mastery of leverage, ramps, and timing. What makes Baalbek different from other megalithic sites is not that the physics is impossible. It is that no wall painting, no inscription, no surviving Roman text anywhere describes exactly how they did it. The single largest engineering achievement of the ancient world was performed with no surviving instruction manual. There is also a deeper layer to this mystery, literally beneath the Roman temple. The platform the Trilithon sits within, the retaining wall itself, shows construction techniques and a style of megalithic stonework that many archaeologists believe predates the Romans by centuries, possibly resting on a foundation first laid by the Phoenicians, the seafaring civilization that dominated this coastline more than 1,000 years before Rome ever arrived. The very name Baalbek is believed to derive from Baal, the ancient Canaanite and Phoenician storm and sky god, worshipped at a temple on this exact spot long before Jupiter's name was ever carved into it. The Romans, in other words, may not have built this platform from nothing. They may have inherited it, expanded it, and built their most ambitious temple directly on top of someone else's already standing megalithic achievement. And if that is true, the identity of that original builder and the reason they attempted stones this size in the first place is not a Roman question at all. It's older, and it's unanswered. If a research team turned up tomorrow morning with hard proof of exactly how Baalbek's builders lifted a 1,000-ton stone 7 meters into the air, it would end one of the longest-running engineering debates in archaeology overnight. And nobody has produced that proof yet. Tell me in the comments, manpower and ingenuity we've simply underestimated, or something about this site that still doesn't add up. I read everyone. And if you want more of these, real documented mysteries, not recycled TikTok theories, subscribe. Because what we're about to get into next is exactly the kind of explanation people don't want to be true, precisely because it's more interesting than the alternative. It is worth being direct about the version of this story that spreads fastest online, because it involves this exact site. In 1959, Soviet scientist Matthias Agrist proposed that Baalbek's massive platform was originally constructed as a landing pad for extraterrestrial spacecraft and variations of that idea. that only advanced, non-human technology could have moved stones this size, have circulated in books and documentaries for over 60 years. Older, pre-scientific legends made a related claim in different language. Medieval Arabic manuscripts describe Baalbek as the city of the legendary King Nimrod, or as a fortress built by giants in the age before the biblical flood. Every one of these stories is really answering the same underlying discomfort, that ordinary human beings, without modern machinery, should not have been physically capable of what stands at Baalbek. It is a compelling instinct. It is also, according to the archaeological record, wrong. The evidence against a non-human origin is not circumstantial. It is sitting in the same quarry as the stones themselves. Archaeologists have documented ancient tool marks across the quarry face and on the unfinished blocks, chisel and wedge marks fully consistent with Roman era and pre-Roman Levantine stoneworking techniques, the same methods used at smaller, better understood sites throughout the region. The unfinished stone of the pregnant woman still shows the quarrying groove cut around 3 of its sides, exactly the technique a human stonemason would use to isolate a block before attempting to free it from bedrock. Clear, physical, in-progress evidence of an ordinary, if extraordinarily ambitious, human construction process caught mid-task and abandoned. There is no trace of any technology, any tool, or any method inconsistent with what we already know the ancient world possessed. What Baalbek actually proves is not that ancient people had help from outside human civilization. It proves that ancient human civilization, unaided, was capable of something modern engineers still find difficult to fully replicate. That reframing does not make the mystery smaller. If anything, it makes it more interesting because it shifts the question from who or what could have done this to why would any civilization commit this many resources to stones this impractically large? The Trilithon blocks are structurally unnecessary. Smaller stones, laid in ordinary Roman fashion, would have supported the temple above them just as well, the way virtually every other Roman structure on Earth was built. Baalbek's builders did not choose 1,000-ton blocks because the engineering demanded it. They chose them because scale itself was the point. A display of resources, ambition, and control so extreme that it announced the power of Rome, or of whoever ruled this sacred site before Rome, to anyone who ever stood beneath that wall. The stones were never simply structural. They were a message, carved in the only material that could survive long enough to keep delivering it. Modern engineers have not stopped trying to reverse engineer the exact method. Structural analyses published in recent years have modeled multiple plausible transport and lifting sequences. Combinations of earthen ramps built up in stages, timber cribbing stacked incrementally beneath the stone as it was walked upward inch by inch, and enormous log and lever systems using the stone's own mass as a counterweight against smaller lifting points. Every proposed method works mathematically. None of them has been definitively proven to be the actual method used, because no archaeological trace of ramps, cribbing, or lifting apparatus this massive has survived at the site. Which is not entirely surprising, since temporary wooden construction infrastructure, used once and then dismantled for its timber, rarely leaves physical evidence behind it all. The how remains a matter of the most plausible reconstruction, not a settled fact. Baalbek's more recent history has been almost as turbulent as its ancient one. The site has survived earthquakes, including a devastating one in 1759, Ottoman-era neglect, and, more recently, the dangers of a modern nation repeatedly caught in regional conflict. Lebanon's civil war and subsequent instability have at various points restricted archaeological access and tourism to the site, even as the stones themselves have proven, once again, remarkably resistant to damage. Today, Baalbek is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and Lebanese and international archaeological teams continue surveying the quarry and the platform using ground-penetrating radar and 3D laser scanning, hoping to find physical evidence, Post holes, ramp foundations, tool caches that could finally settle exactly how this was done. So far, the ground has kept the secret as completely as it has kept the stones themselves standing. What we can say with confidence is this: human beings, using rope, timber, ramps, and an almost unimaginable coordination of manpower, quarried, transported, and lifted stones larger than almost anything else ever moved by hand in recorded history. And they did it not once, with the 3 Trilithon blocks already in the wall, but were actively attempting to do it again, at even greater scale, with the 1,650-ton block found in 2014, when something made them stop. We do not know if that something was war, a change in rulers, a cracked and ruined stone, or simply the dawning realization that even they had finally reached the edge of what was possible. The unfinished stone in the quarry is not a failure. It is a pause button, still pressed 2,000 years later. Stand at the base of that western wall today, and the 3 blocks are still exactly where they were left, still fitted so precisely that the seams disappear at any distance greater than an arm's length. A few hundred meters away, in the quarry, the 4th giant is still lying half-cut from the bedrock, waiting for a crew that scattered 2 millennia ago and never came back. Every theory about who built the platform beneath it, and how they lifted stones this size without a single surviving diagram, remains exactly that: a theory argued over in academic journals instead of ancient texts, because the people who actually knew left no instructions, only the proof that it was done. Baalbek does not need aliens or giants to be extraordinary. It only needs to be exactly what it appears to be: the largest, least explained achievement human hands ever attempted, and abandoned, mid-stone, in a quarry that has never told anyone why. Some mysteries refuse to die.